after this year, the Millennium Development Goals will end. And then what's next?
What's been defined so far is a set of 17 goals that have been put forward by the United Nations, but now the goals are being negotiated and debated by the member states.
All goals are in those 6 elements: people and prosperity and dignity and justice and cooperation. They are very general concepts.
A lot of people aren't really aware of the detail of what's in the proposed water and sanitation MDG, and that's why we thought it was a useful event to bring together different people in the Dutch water, sanitation and hygiene sector, and to explain a bit what's in there and to discuss, how people see that affecting them and their day-to-day work.
We have some heavy lifting to do. We make a big leap from MDGs to SDGs.
We go from reducing half of the population without access to sanitation to universal access for all. And that's an enormous leap in terms of level of ambition, but also level of complexity. And the SDGs also now address some of the flaws of the MDGs in terms of addressing issues around equity and service levels, water quality, and things like that.
I think the SDGs have a couple of qualifiers, specifically on WASH, like reaching the most vulnerable, equal access, particular emphasis on women and children, on those vulnerable and disadvantaged groups left behind. I think that's a great additional element. Sustainable access, it was in the MDGs, but we never measured it. And there monitoring comes in again. You have indicators, but if you don't have an indicator for sustainability, then what can you say about sustainable access? I'm not saying that's easy. It can be done, but it's a challenge.
It's very capital intensive. And looking at the economy in Zimbabwe now, there are quite some challenges, especially in the rural areas, where that is where the majority of the population in Zimbabwe is found, and there also is where we have the poorer members of our communities.
We think that the ambition level of the SDGs cannot be funded by grant money from donors alone, nor by the little public resources the local governments have available, nor the private sector money which is available now for the water sector. So there needs to be some innovation, some new energy in finding more different solutions in financing the water sector.
It will require a lot of resources, but they need to come from a wide variety of actors. Of course, public sector has an important role to play. The governments in the countries itself, but also the donor countries. But there are so many other resources that need to be tapped, like private sector, but also the resources of communities and households themselves. The banking sector, other investors. I think we have to become a bit creative and try to explore where the money can come from.
The financial demands of making the transition that we need to make can look overwhelming. But what we need to remember is that there are financial costs in not having sustainable development. And there are savings to be had by implementing these actions. And so we need to make sure that we don't just stand back and get concerned about where's the money going to come from, but that we really move towards an understanding that if we have sustainable development, that in itself will help support a sustainable economy. We really wanted there to be a single standalone water goal, not to have water distributed underneath other goals, which was one possible direction it would go, but to really have a standalone goal and to have this breadth that is represented in what we've come to so far.
My biggest concern is that we lose the water goal. There's pressure from some countries to reduce the number of goals. There's 17, there's 169 indicators, which some people think are a lot. Arguably, you could say if you're looking at the sustainable development of the whole world and you're boiling that down to 17 goals and 69 indicators, that's not bad. But some people would like to reduce it further, and I think there would be a big danger for us as a sector if we lost a specific, measurable goal and indicator about achieving universal coverage.
Well, in theory, changes can still be made, but it's also considered as a sort of house of cards. If you change one thing, that will have consequences at other goals or parts of the SDGs. So, in a way, the expectation is that the goals as they are now will reach September.
The political will to really do it has to be there, and now 15 years is quite some time in which a lot can be done if people really work together and really go for it.
Assess their